Is Hawaii gonna be weak?
No, it's an album. That's what
But okay, I think on Julio album better. How do you like that? You have
That's not easy. I'm really
Have you started taking SARMs yet?
wow.
What about
SARMs.
what about now?
All right, here we go. So let's get up with Scott.
If you don't take SARMs, you know.
So we talked about, what was Joe on again?
You with the
Oh, first atomic bomb. What was, okay, remember I said this, like, New American Dream. What was it that people could finally get after the war? House, and then like a TV. By the way, you ever see a house that was built in the 1950s? They still have them today. But also they have the really big windows in the front. Those they call them picture windows. That was so you could have like you could look out your window like a TV. They were actually consciously thinking that. I don't really think of that now, but that's the way the thought was then. Washer and dryer, and you finally went through all these years of depression and war, gonna have this stuff. What was what did Joe want? Oh, we have Lugosi. Trying to think of the other 30s. Oh, Nosferatu, the Cabinet of Dr. Oh,
King Kong.
yeah, King Kong was one movie. In World War II, what did they really focus on?
Oh, they
Think about America.
Yeah, kind of America, you know, the Wolfman.
People, yeah,
Swing
people.
And then those kind of funny ones, like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. And all those, you know, bunch of,
Crossover.
Yeah.
Crossover.
yeah, you know, that kind of stuff. It's not new. And so, here's the thing now. You have a threat from the sky, Soviet bombers, and now they can destroy the world. They can destroy everything. And so you have this threat, this ultimate weapon that science has built. Science has built this, meaning humans have built this, science. And did science care about the possibilities? And now the Soviets have it. The threat from above of this unknown force. We can't identify, it's scary. And I know what else you're thinking. What do we do if the H-bomb attacks? Well, of course, you got A-bomb contaminant. This contamination, it just washes away all the radiation. So we're fine. I saw this and my first thought was it's kind of like horse dewormer. Moving on. So here's another thing. That means we are unsafe in our own homes. You think you're safe here, the homes that we finally got. Not everybody, but maybe someday we can all get this, and now we're unsafe. And so here's a pamphlet from Civil Defense, a lot sponsored by the Mutual of Omaha Company, by nuclear bomb insurance. And how to survive an atomic bomb. And it goes through where you sit, how you survive. No, you can survive this. You can find your door, you squat. Yes, people might die, but if you wear a white suit, yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
What do we do our friends?
Yeah, but they would send these things out. I remember I got a pamphlet somewhere that said how to build your own fallout shelter in your backyard.
Did you follow it?
Huh?
Did you follow
I was a little kid and I wanted to do it. My dad just said no. You know what it was?
That's because your dad's a
Huh? Yeah, my dad was a commie.
Radiation.
But no, you dig a little trench, a little bit smaller than the width of a door. And the idea was when the nuclear attack hit, you take your front door off its hinges, and you put that over the top, and then go into the hole and stay in there for 2 weeks.
I have no time to smoke.
Now you think about a little place the size of a door, and doesn't that kind of remind you of something else you might bury? Is that about the size of a coffin? Yeah, that's where you're going to stay? Yeah.
What? Okay, what about the coffin thing? If you were able to dehinge your door,
Anytime.
within like 30 seconds,
Well,
you own the
by the time that came about, the realization is that the bomb exploded close, you're not going to
Hey, when you're going to the
So the thought was, we're sitting in Miles City, Montana. Great Falls will be a major target. Why Great Falls? It's all around Great Falls. At that time, there were 300 intercontinental ballistic
They
missiles.
still a few.
Now we have 100. Yeah. Not really.
You might wanna, if you ever do follow up on that
Yeah, I'm going.
shelter, you might wanna put a lock down there so you can like have something to read for those 2 weeks, cause it might just be a little warm.
I think you got a lot of stuff to do.
You should try refrigerators.
Oh, hide in the refrigerator?
Perfect Indian joke.
Hide in the refrigerator, yeah, works.
Have food. You might be lacking something, but you know, Fallout won't get in. But here's the point. Even, so what does a communist look like?
Looks like that.
Everyone.
Could be anybody. You're unsafe at your home. There's a threat from the sky. You get the whole point about that. You're unsafe in the sky. It could be anywhere. And by the way, this is being drummed in your head 24 hours a day. And then, this became the question then. Do we fight or do we surrender? And so that, I love this one. This is this tomorrow. America under communism.
That looks cool.
I mean, they got the coal fire, but other than that, be dominated and controlled. What are we going to do? So the implication is we have to fight for our literal lives. You see how four movies might fit into this. An unknown, unseen enemy from someplace that we can't identify, we're not sure about. And this concept was, they represented something. We're not sure what communism was, but it represented something that was going to take away what we got, give it to people who are undeserving, and then at the same time, we'll all have to be the same. So this is from a comic book that was actually relatively popular to be given to kids and things like that. And so, for example, it says right there, new attitude to labor and plan, where everybody be the same, whether you're a plumber or a nurse, factory worker, whatever, all will be the same. And they have a little bit of kind of a bastardization from Marx, everyone to his own ability, regardless of race, age, sex, or personal desire. So you have no decision, you should be plugged in. And by the way, you notice that they added a couple words that were not in Marx.
Personal desire.
Personal, not necessarily even more than that.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll be plugged in there with people who are not white. That's what it's telling white people in the United States. Or all of you men will be plugged in with women. Wow, that was, but it's telling you, what does that imply? Race mixing, sex mixing, be no differentiation. And as we all know, there's a reason why they said the fight for civil rights, which is pure communism.
Yeah, that was a big thing, because wasn't a lot of like anti-communist propaganda showing communists at like interracial, like.
A lot of or women people too. By the way, you notice we have the women on one side here. Yeah, there you Oh, one more thing about this too. Oh, and for example, there were billboards all over the United States, all over, that had Martin Luther King as a communist, and had him in this group of other people saying there he is in communist training. This was all over the United States in the 1960s. So this is not a new thing. That's probably another thing I was out there to tell people in 2 years. And so, but I can't emphasize this enough. We'll lose what we have and lose our identity, lose who we are. It won't matter. We'll just be machines like plants. And here's the whole thing. It's hard to read for the same comic book. You want me? I will read it to you. Here's story time. Are you ready? So here's now the USSA, the United Soviet States of America. Like it? Like it? And it says, Mr. Jones, the government decided that you will work in northern Wisconsin at a lumber mill. You will leave tomorrow, and by train, if you resist, you will be arrested. Your wife will be moved to an apartment here in Chicago near her factory. We'll allow you to visit her sometimes. But with my wife working, who will care for the children? The government will care for your children in special schools and nurseries. They will see their mother on weekends. Now get going. And so on. That is the world. Yes. Somebody would probably complain.
It's kind of.
And then, by the way, I just thought I had the
We have the
Soviet flag
flag
there.
up.
I was wondering what that, I'll probably, yeah, one of you would probably sue me. Ah, how did you, oh, no, not again.
You gotta go. Did y'all?
No.
Hey. I
We
know.
have to go back.
Yeah. What's up? Would you like some more? Yeah.
Too much fish shake.
That's the Red Menace. This communist threat is all over. By the way, you notice it's a movie?
It is.
A Republic feature called The Red Menace. That's a movie. The communist threat is everywhere. It could be anybody. I mean, well, obviously, you know, she's a communist. Because he's yelling. He doesn't look like it. How do we find them? And don't forget, everyone's the same. You know, they're different than us. They're like giants. They beat the Germans or something about them. They're going to take our
Yeah,
stuff.
Mountain Valley.
Mountain valleys appear. And that's what we need. Somebody to root them out. And that's what McCarthyism and the Red Scare. A commie hunter. He will find them for us. This enemy we can't find. Now, did he find them?
Yes.
Sure, why not? He just accused people that were political enemies. And yeah, paralyzed the country. The Red Scare, that would go on pretty much off and on continuously till after the end of the Cold War in different degrees. But once you get everybody worked up, then they're just looking for somebody to make you feel safe. Because you're afraid of the unknown. But it's kind of an appealing feeling to be afraid. It's exciting. It's exciting. Wow. You're excited. Well, this could happen. Why do you think people watch Dracula? It's exciting, but now we have a real world thing to be afraid of. And how do we find a commie? Where do you go?
The coffee shop.
If you're a commie, where would you hang out? Yeah, coffee shop. Have you been to Taco Bell? So, here's a little bit from a movie. I wish I had the whole thing, but
Therefore, propaganda is vastly more important in democratic societies.
In recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it. If a person consistently reads and advocates the views expressed in a communist publication, he may be a communist. If a person supports organizations which reflect communist teachings, or organizations labeled communist by the Department of Justice, she may be a communist. If a person defends the activities of communist nations while consistently attacking the domestic and foreign policy of the United States, she may be a communist. If a person does all these things over a period of time, he must be a communist. But there are other communists who don't show their real faces.
by the way, they're bashing people who had signs saying down with KKK terror. As we all know, you oppose the KKK, you're anti-American. There's both sides to every issue, right?
Who work more silently.
By the early 19th.
So, the silent workers for communism are the big things. They could be anywhere. Yeah.
So they were saying basically reading about communism makes you a communist. So
Not necessarily, but it could be. But if you do all these other things together, then you are. You wear orange, you read communism, you have a water bottle.
I'm not going to deny that.
So,
I'm very communist.
and as we all know, who is a real threat? Women, hard-working men are being seduced by evil female communists. Which, by the way, yeah, that was a lot of people. That was actually a thing, and so that's a real movie. This came on Turner Classic Movies one time, and on a whim, I started watching a little bit of it, And it's significantly worse than you think it would be. And you already think it's horrible, right?
Can we watch that?
No. On your own, you can watch it. I will not stop. Why do you want to watch it?
More tapes.
Robert Ryan was actually would become a pretty big time actor. But that's him there. And this movie was made. Now it's going to be working for the FBI, and I love this. I went communist for the FBI. And if you want to see wooden acting, if you want to see people acting, I'm trying to think of somebody. The closest I can come to is making William Shatner look like a good actor. Don't know who William Shatner is? Well, you'll find out. And so, at the same time, while this is going on, we have the 1947 flying saucer craze. Woo! So all of these things come together. So you have this threat of communism, and then all of a sudden in 47, you have Kenneth Arnold saying this, and some of you already can remember this. They flew like a saucer, like they skipped on water, and that turned into flying saucers. Because they were never actually, he never saw a saucer-shaped thing. It just came out that, and next thing, what everybody's seeing flying saucers. Everybody. At the same time. This is 47. And it was already ingrained in American culture by the end of the summer. Because that's June. And so here are some 1950 flying saucer sightings. Are they real flying saucers? Well, sure, they're flying. Yeah, so that's just a frisbee. And that's lights in the sky that probably, they just kind of made it look like. If you play with lights in the sky and move your camera on, it looks like round discs. I mean, I'm part of the problem on that. And that's what he actually said he saw. And then science. All this technological change. Not only building the hydrogen bomb that could destroy an entire island, but all of this idea of all this scientific change was happening so fast. And it seemed like society was changing so much. And there's elements of that today. I mean, you see at times where just things seem to be changing so fast. Are they? Elements of it are. The main basis of society has not changed much. And so you're going to start seeing these scientific, like these lots of comic books about like doomsday and the enemy is man. It's almost always a man. So I said man, but humans, we're doing it to ourselves because they don't know when to quit. They'll experiment with so much that they will destroy the universe, which there are elements of that around to this day. And then this idea that you could engineer a garden that could be that would benefit from radiation and plant more food or things like that. Yes, that's real. No, don't eat irradiated food.
Yeah, but what about you slowly at a time and build resistance? I'm going to become immune to radiation.
That's not how radiation works.
What do I think that's how it works?
Think hard enough and it'll happen.
Okay, yeah.
Don't do that. I've already said roll the die, but don't do that. So one more thing about this real quick. All the movies started portraying about this scientific experiments going crazy, and you see, that's one, they basically have the brain that would not, or the head that would not die. It is about they're going to make this whole race of keeping the brain alive. Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. You can see a lot of that.
Isn't it actual brain?
Yeah. Yeah, that we can do in class. I have a refrigerator back there. We'll put you in the stocks. It'll be relatively painless for you after a while.
Well, yeah, if you put them in the stocks, then it gets a good.
And so this concept of science run amok. And there are all these ideas about what is coming scientifically. This is from this cartoon at the end of the 1950s about the shape or the wave of the future, about these societies with elevated trains. Some of this did happen, but this car could also fly. You notice I always try to make them look like jets, so you see a lot of the fins. That was on purpose. And here's some kind of laser that you can see behind you. Here in school, it would all be on, like television cameras, you can learn and just type things in. And as we know from recent experience, that works really, really well. And people adapt very well. There's no need to have assemblies of freshmen in sophomore to tell them that they're kind of out of control because it works perfectly. I tied it all together. So, you got the science run amok, the Red Scare, flying saucer wave, but don't forget also, we finally, it seems like we have this good life. So who are the enemy? People are the enemies. So here's a really cheesy movie about Dr. Cyclops using a lot of like radiation, turning people to mutants and things like that. And he's talking this whole thing about, these are government experiments. It must be the government. Well, that's become so ingrained from 1950s horror movies that people say that now. They said, oh, I wonder if it's a government experiment. That's a very popular trope in movies that all of you have probably seen, right? And then, of course, I put Science Run Amok. That is from one of the greatest movies ever made, Dr. Strangelove. The scientists going beyond everything. And then, of course, the reality of that. Who is that?
Operation Beautiful.
Yeah. Werner von Braun, who is a Nazi who helped develop the Nazi rocket program.
He was an accused Nazi.
Sure. Because he knew rockets. And that shows that science, we will go through any moral barrier for science. We'll take a guy who used slave laborers to build the V-2 rocket that be used to bombard London. Well, a little bit of London, but also then it couldn't quite London, so Paris or Antwerp. And now we'll use him to build the US rocket. Science has no morality. And so with that, we come back to this monster movies from the 1950s, but they have changed. Now in the 50s, we still have monsters, but now the monsters are different. Something has happened that turns a lot of times like regular things like ants into massive killer ants. And what does it? Almost always will be something like nuclear radiation, nuclear testing. In Nevada, all of a sudden these ants started coming out. Why Nevada? What's in the United States testing in Nevada? Lots of nuclear weapons. In fact, it became a tourist attraction for Las Vegas. Watch the mushroom cloud. By the way, it's a good movie. Ben is actually a very good movie. I know the premise of irradiated ants coming at you doesn't seem as interesting. Not every movie like this is necessarily bad. So, those are the Don't get bogged down in the special effects. And here's a little bit of the trailer. I like trailers. By the way, we're coming.
I tell you, gentlemen, that unless something is done and I tell you, gentlemen, science has agreed
Science.
that unless something is done and done quickly, man, as the dominant species of life on Earth, will be extinct within a year. Of the President of the United States, stay in your homes. I repeat, stay in your homes. Your personal safety, the safety of the entire city, depends upon your full cooperation with the military authorities. Yes, cities, nations, even civilization itself, threatened with annihilation, because in one moment of history-making violence, nature, mad, rampant, wrought its most awesome creation. For born in that swirling inferno of radioactive dust were things so horrible, so terrifying, so hideous. There is no word to describe them. We may be witnesses to a biblical prophecy come true.
And there shall be destruction and darkness come up in creation, and the beast shall reign over the earth.
Yes, the earth, the skies above and the seas below, infested by swarms of nightmare creatures, crueler, deadlier than the armored giants of prehistoric eras. Here is a wild, headlong flight into terror, as the desert erupts with the grim battle for survival. Here is a fear-frenzied moment of suspense, as mankind totters before a thing that multiplies faster than it can be killed. Here.
All right, so do you get the idea? But does that kind of fit in with everything you just said? It's a good movie. And then, of course, The Creature of the Black Lagoon. Another classic, another good story, but this strange monster. And it has elements of like the 30s monsters. But I don't know why. It's implied something created this. Has anyone ever seen this? One, that's a pretty good movie too.
It's a classic.
I had a model of that when I was a kid.
I have a soft spot for the creature of the Black Lagoon.
I'm going to stop this and move on. So I'm going to show you, I think I have a little bit of a scene from it. Oh, I thought I did. Give me a second.
Turn to the fury of revenge. Of time. With Richard Denning, whose scientific passion turned to the fury of revenge. You'll see the most amazing underwater photography that the screen has ever known. In this strangest of all science fiction adventures.
All right, so, okay, I didn't need to. And so you get all of these things, they're monsters, but who created them? Humans. You did. Well, you didn't listen to me. So we have all of these great ones. So the thing, you get a thing was so popular, a lot of these cheap ones like tarantula and crawling, slimy things, the brain eaters. Okay, the Being in 3D, and this, I've never seen this one, and I'm not going to. But if you're bad to me, and I've actually seen this one, this Island Earth, another one where the Earth is on the edge of nuclear destruction because it's creating nuclear bombs. One of those. It's, yeah. But this whole idea that humans are scared. But now remember, who has human scientists? The commies. And they're not afraid to use them. And so, giant leeches, the crawling eye. Godzilla is a classic example of this in Japan. What created Godzilla?
The radiation from Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Exactly. Well, obviously, that's a true story.
Images of imperialism is what created.
And so then we turn to, you combine, okay, we have monsters. It's a short step from unknown monsters to aliens. 47 flying saucer wave. I mean, this whole thing about flying saucers is relatively new. Of course, because technology. And so, for example, one of the more famous ones, From the Sky. It eats you alive.
Dave, Doc Hallen's been killed.
Doc Hallen, what happened?
It's over at his place. You gotta come now.
Now, wait a minute, Steve. Tell us what happened.
Well, I'm trying to tell you. Now, this thing had killed the doc.
Well, what was it?
Stop with it, kid. But it's kind of like a...
No, look.
It's kind of like a mass that keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's...
So they had this. It all started. The first time you see the Blob was at a movie theater. So and this was geared to show to teenagers. and they're all sitting in the theater, and movies would do this. And they would have like stuff come out during this, and everyone would scream in the theater. As you see.
Every one of you watching this screen, look out. Because soon, very soon, the most horrifying monster menace ever conceived will be oozing into this theater. Two teenagers see it first, like a falling star from outer space.
Boy, that was close. Hey, come on, I want to see if I can find it.
An old man finds it, touches it, and this is the shocking result. From then on, there's no stopping the blob as it spreads from town to town. It's indestructible. It's indescribable. Nothing can stop it.
You're getting too scared. So, one of the best of this genre, I think I actually did a redo of this 15 years ago, The Day the Earth Stood Still. And this puts it all together. It's an alien that comes down with this horrifying monster. It's kind of like monster/robot. And basically saying the Earth is on the path to destroy the world. And you must stop your ways, not just the world, the universe. And so this is the alien, and talks about his adventures there. And it's actually a pretty good movie too. But it kind of ties everything together. Monsters, threat of nuclear war. Can we redeem ourselves? Does anyone see this? It's a good one. The Blob is kind of funny, actually.
We interrupt this program to give you a bulletin just received from one of our naval units at sea. A large object traveling at supersonic speed is headed over the North Atlantic toward the east coast of the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Drew Pearson. We bring you this special radio television broadcast in order to give you the very latest information on an amazing phenomenon, the arrival of a space ship in Washington. The Army has taken every precaution to meet any emergency which may develop. Just a minute, ladies and gentlemen, I think something is happening.
I came here to give you these facts. But if you threaten to extend your violence, this earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder.
You've seen enough of that terror. It's a good movie too. Now, maybe the greatest of this genre is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Now, some of you have seen this movie. It's the same idea of an enemy within. It could be anybody taking over. It's such an amazingly good story. Now, we're not going to watch this part of it. We're going to jump right to... There's other ones like this, for example, came out at the same time. Alien Invasion with technology we could not stop, War of the Worlds. The 54 version, it's not bad. It's a little off. H.G. Wells would have hated it. Has anyone ever read the book? It's a good book. H.G. Wells' books are pretty inconsistent. War of the Worlds, I recommend. It's good. It's a quick read. Small novel. But it's about this technology that cannot be stopped. Yeah. And basically, it was this allegory about colonization of Europe. But still, it made that. Now, they made it to kind of this religious saga. H.G. Wells was an atheist, so they didn't like to this, about 20 years ago, they made a remake of this, maybe not that much, with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that's to say.
Yeah. It kind of loses a little bit of it, but as entertainment value, I guess it's kind of entertaining. Red Planet Mars is another invasion of the Saucer Man. They got this, and immediately you have to have remakes of that. Lots of big-headed monsters. They all live in Circle, Montana now. And then The Thing. Now, The Thing from Another World was one of the first actually of this genre. But this movie hit so many different levels. It hit the Cold War, Fear of the Monsters, science. It had Enemy from Above. And where were the Soviets attacked from? What direction? Where would they come? And they'd fly over the Arctic. It takes place in the Arctic. Now, it's actually from a short story that is really scary. That takes place in Antarctica. The short story is fantastic. But they made this movie called The Thing, and it ties in all the Cold War. It does everything together. It is really good. And it's the first one of these, the first one to really, and the other movies, a couple that had this genre, but nothing like The Thing. So my mom, she remembers watching this. She went with her dad. My grandpa, I never met him before I was born. I know what you're saying, time is all messed up here, but no one knows how old I actually am. But she went and saw this, and she could not sleep for a month straight, she said. This movie scared her so much. Now, when we watch it, those elements won't be as scary because we've seen stuff like this. And that's something when you watch a movie like this, whether if you go back and watch Dracula or them, you have to get some of your preconceptions out of your mind and just kind of put yourself, just imagine what it would be like when you watch this and it's all new. But if you do that and watch The Thing, so with that, we are going to watch this. We will start this tomorrow. And we'll watch it in class. The cry room is set up. And don't forget, they're all alike. They have no real feeling. They're just all going to work like drones. That's how. Huh? You have to go to the cry room? We just lock you in there. We'll get you out next month. Yeah.
Have you seen the Cronenberg thing?
No.
The 80s one?
Cronenberg?
David Cronenberg, he made a remake of the thing in the 80s. Have you seen that?
There was one that, no, that's, oh my goodness. No, the thing I did Halloween did. Not my mind's closed.
John Carpenter.
Yeah, John Carpenter did. That's how And there's one, maybe, there's one that they made that's like a prequel to the 82 one.
Oh, do you like the 82 one?
I think it's the best horror movie ever.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big John Carpenter fan. And that's what made me so mad I couldn't remember the name. I like John Carpenter a lot. It's a good movie. If you want to see the trailer.
The 82 one's super good.
The 82 is closer to the short story.
Oh.
This is more of a Cold War one. The 82 one's really close to the short story. Especially for, you know,
I think Cronenberg did the effects, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's it.
That thing's alive, sir. I saw it. I shot at it. I hit it. I know it. Nothing happened. It just kept coming at me, making a noise like a cat mewing. Captain, it was awful. You could have seen those hands and those eyes. Captain, you've got to do something about it. You've got.
Is it human or inhuman? Earthly or unearthly? Baffling questions, astounding questions that not even the world's greatest scientific minds can answer.
Gentlemen, do you realize what we've found? A being from another world as different from us as one pole from the other. We can only communicate with it. See?
What happened, Doctor?
In the greenhouse, I was working. I couldn't see.
Yeah.
Then a blast of cold air, and I heard Olson scream.
Come here. Get in the corner. Now hold this in front of you. Stay by the light switch.
1.9. Needles hit the top.
So, we'll watch this scene again, but this is what we're starting tomorrow. And it's a good movie. It's well done. I would highly recommend the thing in 82. I would highly recommend it. It is rated R, so you have to get parental approval. You go to a movie because we're in school. Pretty spooky. It's well done too. And if you want to read the Who Goes There is the name of the short story. And it's only like 80 pages long. It's a good, it's scary. It's what I even knew the story, and it was like, it's one of those that gave me the creeps when I was reading it, and I knew the story. So that's how good a short story was. I read the short story for the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, so it wasn't quite as. All right, room will be set up for you, Tyler.
When did the first Alien come out?
79?
That sounds about right. Late 70s.
Yeah. The original Alien's good though. And Aliens, beyond that, they kind of blow.
I like Prometheus, honestly.
Prometheus is weird, dude.
The story is like, what's it like? It makes sense, but also it's kind of like dumb that it's so hard to make sense.
Yeah, I don't really know what Ridley Scott's trying to do with Alien now. Like he's they're kind of wacky now.
The Alien video game is so.
The first Alien's great.
Yeah. Do you like?
I like Sigourney Weaver a lot.
Do you like Aliens at all, or?
You know, when I saw it in the theater, I thought it was a fun shoot 'em up movie. It's okay. It's not near as good.
Yeah, no,
Did you ever play the
Yeah, I
Alien
think
game?
it's like so different than the original.
You ever seen Alien vs. Predator?
It's more of a classic.
That's just hard as hell.
What's that?
Dude, when the whole cast of Predators came out,
Wasn't that big? It sold a lot, but they actually they skipped on it.
I'm so sad that the Predator.
I thought
the
it was bigger
sucks.
last time.
Oh, I haven't played it yet.
It's more like a slasher
movie
movie.
versus a monster.
Yes. By Daylight?
No, is it E? No, is it a big?
Woo! Everybody the sun's out.
No. Is it an arena? It's like.
But the new aliens are weird, dude. I saw the latest one and I kind of hated it. I saw
like 3 people.
I never liked the Predator.
Cannabis, yeah.
Yeah, but they're only putting the mask back on, so I think it was.
To show that we're not afraid. I retract my statement. It's a little bit. Yeah, it's it's like crap. I watched the original.
And then I saw that. And
Yeah, maybe like if you just like wore the mask the whole time, I'd be okay with it. But if he takes off the mask and it's like a little crab face,
But it wasn't bad. I mean, they tried to do something. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Keanu Reeves. I forgot he was. The original was good. But it's awesome. 1950. You have to remember they had a different idea of what was in it. You have to pull yourself back. But I think it reminds me of Keanu Reeves.
when did the
What's that?
To the stairs.
See you tomorrow.
when did the whole what's his name? The War of the Worlds broadcast, the really famous one.
Yeah, and actually, we do mysteries. I'll show you something. American Experience is a great one.
Was that 1920?
No, it's 30s.
30s? Okay.
Yeah, it was during the Great Depression. It's been exaggerated what happened about the radio broadcast, but it's still a great story.
Yeah, no, because I saw a play at UM based on War of the Worlds, and they took apparently like a lot of inspiration from the story behind the broadcast.
Oh, okay.
And all of that, like combined it with the actual like short story to make something really cool. So
Was it good?
yeah, no, I really enjoyed it.
Oh, wow.
It was like, yeah, it was super cool. Like, all the lighting came from like on stage. Like they had flashlights or like little like lanterns. Like there was no like overhead lighting, and all the like sound effects and music came from like radios and stuff like there. Or so it was all like diegetic. It was pretty cool.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Be one of those. I kind of get an idea, but I think you really have to see it.
Yeah, no doubt.
That sounds interesting. It's such a great story.
Oh yeah, no, it was super cool. Like, they like added elements of like the radio if I'm being honest, I don't remember how to describe it, but it was super cool application. I feel really bad for the theaters. They got a new creative director, so they did like March 3 years they did shows to get everything back on track, and then the year before COVID, they had their first season with a new creative director. And they had to go dark for 2 years.
All these great ideas, and then
After they like had just gone dark. So. But I also saw a White Christmas thing that day. The theaters for the yeah, that's not yeah, remember that. I'll tell you everything out there. So you're not looking at that's cool, thanks. Yeah, thanks for it. The way I teach it was really, I mean, I did it before. No. Sorry. No one said anything either. That's what I think.
I'm gonna go to your bar. Well, because it's a negative. Go get them. Nice.